July new releases. Very excited. I stopped making like these videos a while back because I realized like this was only helping me shop, but then I also realized like that I had missed making these videos because I like to share like this enthusiasm with the world as far as like what books I'm anxious to be birthed out into the universe. And so I wanted to kind of get back into making these videos again where I get to talk about all of the wonderful books that are coming out by month. So for this video we are going to be talking about the month of July. So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Comfort Book by Matt Haig. It's coming out July 6th. Actually, like though, when I looked at Blackwell's, like they said July 1st. So I'm kind of like, I don't know like exactly like what date it's coming out, but this is a book that I'm very excited for because it is going to be another one of his mental health books. And this book is based on notes that he wrote to his future self in order to talk about the hope for a better tomorrow. So it's supposed to be like very uplifting and very inspiring and everything else. And I've read all of the other two books, Notes on a Nervous Planet and Reasons to Stay Alive, and those were very, those actually helped me a lot, like emotionally, like with everything as far as like depression, anxiety, and everything else goes. So I definitely feel like this book is going to be his newest masterpiece that's really good and aimed at mental health. Had to change my battery again. So the next book that I'm really excited about that's coming out in the month of July, it's coming out July 6th, called Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is the same author that wrote the Spin the Dawn duology. So this book has been described as family and siblings who will do anything for each other, has dragons, curses, quests, talking paper cranes, arranged marriage trope, and fairy tale vibes. Shiori is the princess of Kayada, and she has this ancient dark magic running through her blood. Normally she's really good about concealing it, but on the morning of her betrothal ceremony, she kind of loses control, which kind of sends everything in chaos. Which at first glance, it was a stroke of luck because this was actually an arranged marriage that she never wanted. But it does get the attention of her stepmother. The stepmother notices it and is kind of like concerned about it because the stepmother actually has a dark magic of her own. In the whole process of things, the stepmother actually banishes Shiori and she turns her brothers into cranes. And she sends her away with a warning. She must speak nothing to no one, and for every word that she speaks, one of her brothers will die. Shiori sets out on a journey to locate her brothers and ends up uncovering a conspiracy to undertake the throne. And this is just a whole journey. I have yet to read Spin the Dawn, which I'm going to hopefully get to that one soon because that is now a completed duology, but the Six Crimson Cranes is the beginning of another series and it sounds fabulous and I'm so excited for this because it just sounds like it's going to be everything that I would want. The next book that I'm really excited that's coming out is What We Devour by Lindsay Miller, which is coming out on July 6th. I was really drawn to this. This is the same author that wrote The Mask of Shadows, which is another book that I have not read. So if you have read it, hopefully that'll be familiar to you. Blurbed as comes a dark, intricate story of a girl who must tether herself to a violent ruler to save her crumbling world. Lorena secretly has this access to the banished gods, which nobody knows about. She conceals it. She has actually resigned herself to staying in this little town, getting married to her lifelong friend, and just trying to live a normal life so that nobody uncovers this ability she has. But when the bloodthirsty, vile prince comes to arrest Lorena's father, he sees Lorena and recognizes her inner power for what it is. So she has to make a deal. She either has to go with the prince or see her father arrested. The prince is desperate. He has spent years trying to repair the weakening door that holds back the vial, which is part of the godhood. And he's losing the battle, so he needs help. And he needs Lorena's help. I have a feeling like that this is gonna have like a little bit of a romance like in it, and I am so here for it. Like, I think this just sounds amazing. I do believe that this is also the first in a series. So the next book that I'm really excited that's coming out is the Final Girl support group that is coming out July 13th, written by Grady Hendrix. This is the same author that wrote My Best Friend's Exorcism and the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Both books I read last year and both books I really loved. It's horror and it's fun. But of course, like every horror has like a ton of content trigger warnings for it. So I would definitely like, especially like his, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires was really intense and had a lot of like very bad stuff in it. So anytime we discuss anything having to do with final girls, these are the girls who have gone through horrific experiences with murderers, and they're the last ones standing after everybody else has been killed. So these are the ones that are survivors in the whole scheme of things. 22 years ago, Lynette survived a massacre that has haunted her since it happened. And she is not alone. She's been meeting like with a bunch of other, like I think 5 other final girls who had traumatic experiences of their own, and they're all kind of seeing a group therapist and they're all working through it. They have spent so much time putting their lives back together, piece by piece by piece. That is until one of the girls misses a meeting and Lynette starts to worry that something might have happened to her. Someone has discovered their group and someone is looking to hurt them again. But that's the thing about final girls. They're the ones who live through the trauma and they're the ones who never give up. I am very excited to see this. I don't know, like this has a completely like different premise, and I loved the supernatural aspect of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and My Best Friend's Exorcism. This, from the just reading it, just sounds like it has less of a supernatural aspect, so I'm going to be kind of curious to see how I like this in comparison to the other 2 books. The next book that's coming out is called Flash Fire by T.J. Klune, and it's coming out July 13th. This is the second book in the Extraordinaries trilogy, and I actually read this last month as an ARC from NetGalley, so thank you so much to NetGalley, and I loved it. So I read the first book, Extraordinaries, last year and I really enjoyed it, and that one is about this kid named Nick who is neurodivergent and he is obsessed with writing fan fiction. He's also obsessed with superheroes, and there's a couple local superheroes in his big city that he is just completely upset with. Actually, one superhero, one villain, and he writes fan fiction kind of circulating around these 2 characters. I really enjoyed that book, but I enjoyed this Flashfire book even more because it confirmed a lot of the things that I was suspecting in the first book, and it went more into detail. Also, the friend group and the support group kind of expanded and got more supportive, and we also still have T.J. Klune's unique brand of humor that happens to be in pretty much every book that he's written. So I absolutely ended up loving this book. So definitely go pick it up if you like superheroes, neurodivergent characters who overcome the odds, and also a really nice family system. It's also LGBTQ+, male-male romance. I loved that in there as well, and it's such a beautiful story. And note that this book actually does land on a wonderful cliffhanger that is going to make me want to pick up the next book, and hopefully I'll get approved by NetGalley for the last book as well so that I can read it the second it's available. The next book that I'm going to talk about that is coming out is by XOXO, and it's called XOXO, and it's going to be out July 13th. It's a YA contemporary surrounding musical prodigy Jenny, who plays a cello and is hoping to get into the musical conservatory for prodigies. During her application process, she meets Jae-woo, who is this mysterious, handsome man. It's clearly the feelings that she is feeling for this boy could very well uproot her and force her to change her plans on a musical conservatory because she is just smitten. She allows him to pull her out of her comfort zone and for one night and experience so many things. But after this magical night, he disappears without a word. 3 months later, when Jenny and her mother end up in South Korea to take care of their ailing grandmother, she is surprised to see that Jae-woo is at the same exact university that she applied to. It is an elite art academy, and come to find out, Jae-woo is a part of one of the biggest K-pop bands that there is. And he's strictly forbidden from dating. this sounds so good. Like, I feel like the premise for this, and this has been pretty much like everywhere, like a lot of people have been discussing like this book, so I'm really excited to dive into this because this just, like the forbidden romance trope, and like, I just think it's gonna be awesome. The next book that I'm really excited about that's coming out on July 20th is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This is an adult Asian historical fantasy, and it's described as Mulan meets the Song of Achilles in Shelley Parker Chan's She Who Became the Sun, a bold, queer, and lyrical reimagining of the rise of the founding empire of the Ming Dynasty from an amazing new voice in literary fantasy. To possess the mandate of heaven, female monk Zhao will do anything. This book takes place in 1345 under the Mongol rule. In the Zhou family, the eighth-born son is given a prophecy of greatness. Now, greatness is something that only, like being in the peasant situation that they are, is only something of legend and something like that they've only read about in storybooks. After the eighth-born son is given this projection of greatness, the peasants in this town have no idea how this will come to pass. The fate of nothingness, on the other hand, by the family's clever and capable second daughter, is expected. When bandits attack, Zhao, who is expected to only have greatness in him, ends up succumbing to death. And the daughter, who is fated to nothingness, desperate to escape her own demise, decides to undertake Zhao's eighth son's identity and go to the monastery in his stead. She learns that she is capable of doing anything that needs to be done, and she's also capable of staying hidden from her fate. This book is one of the most anticipated fantasies of the year. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about it. So many people have been talking about this. Like, this is like one of the top fantasies like that's going to be coming out for the year. So definitely, if you love fantasy, LGBTQ books, and Asian fantasies, like, you guys should definitely get on this because it sounds so amazing. The next book that I'm really excited about, it's also coming out July 20th, is called These Hallowed Vows by Lexi Ryan, and it is the first in a new series. So this book has actually been described. Cruel Prince meets the Court of Thorns and Roses in a sexy, action-packed fantasy about a girl who is caught between two treacherous fairy courts and their dangerous, seductive princes. So I was actually like looking at this in passing, and I started to investigate more about it, and the more I read about it, the more I was intrigued. Bree, our main character, hates the Fae. She refuses to have anything to do with them. She doesn't want to do anything remotely regarding the fairy, and she would rather starve on the street than have anything to do with anybody who is considered fairy. But her sister ends up getting sold to the Unseelie Court, and she is now willing to do whatever it takes to get her back, including making a deal with the king, who her sister was sold to recover 3 artifacts from the Seelie Court. But gaining access to the Seelie Court is not so easy, and so she ends up having to pose as a potential bride for one of the Seelie princes, Prince Ronan. And of course, like, this kind of like gives me like fake dating trope vibes, because she ends up falling for him. And unwilling to get distracted because she understands why she's there, she knows like that she needs to do this in order to save her sister, but she ends up meeting a band of misfits who are originally in the Unseelie Court to help her in the Seelie Court. And she's been spending a lot of time with their mysterious leader, Finn. I feel a love triangle or something coming on here. And she can't resist his seductive charm. Now, because of her interest in Prince Ronan and Finn, she is caught between 2 warring courts, and she has to decide where she's going to end up, while also figuring out how to get her sister back. This sounds like so much fun, and I cannot wait for this. Like, it sounds... Fairy are not my favorite thing. They have never been my favorite thing, but when you throw in fake dating trope, like, you know, you end up throwing in a situation like where, you know, you kind of just fall into love instead of like having it planned, I'm kind of sold. The last book that I'm going to discuss is Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. This is actually a book that I've been drooling over for quite some time, that I'm very excited to see how this is, because the premise for it actually sounded very good. This is actually the same author that wrote The House of Salt and Sorrow, which I also have yet to read. But I know like that book has been very, very popular. Ellery Downing lives in the quiet town of Amity Falls, which is completely secluded by really thick woods that are almost impenetrable. According to legend, early townsfolk had to fight off devils that lived in the woods. And this kind of like these legends kind of like start taking form after a group that lives in Amity Falls ends up going missing while they are inside the woods. And there are people that are very concerned that the monsters that once stalked the region are now at large again. The seasons change, fall turns into winter, and more strange things start happening. They point to a tribe of devilish and malicious creatures that are looking to fulfill wishes. But there's one catch. They only fulfill those wishes for a small favor. These devilish creatures are concealing the real reason for wanting these little favors and for doing these things so generously for the people in this town. And the question is, can she save the town before everything goes up in smoke? This gave me a little bit of Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton vibes, so I'm kind of curious. And I really like the idea like that we have like this like devilish kind of people like that are kind of like lurking in the background, but I'm very excited for this and I think it's going to be so much fun. Well guys, that pretty much is the short list of all of the books that I'm really, really excited about that are coming out in the month of July. I hope you guys found some books to maybe like pre-order or look up or anything, because these ones just sound like they're going to be so much fun and I'm very excited. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. I have several other social media accounts that you guys should come hang out with me on. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, Goodreads. Those links are linked in the description below, and I also have a few videos on TikTok. Come join me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon.